Fun. So great to be with you today. And when Pastor Mike, I asked him, I said, hey, what's the sermon series? What are we talking about? He said, I just want you to share your story. And it got me really excited as I started thinking about all the things that the Lord has done for me in my life. It reminded me of the story in 1 Samuel chapter 3. You know, Samuel is in the temple, and one night, he hears someone call his name, Samuel, Samuel, and he keeps going to Eli, the high priest, and saying, Eli, what do you want? What's happening? What do you need me to do? And Eli keeps saying, hey, it's not me, but I'm trying to sleep here. Will you leave me alone? And finally, after several times, Eli says, hey, I think the Lord is trying to get your attention. The Lord's trying to speak to you. So next time you hear the Lord call your name, just say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So that's what Samuel did. And the Lord spoke to him, and the Lord speaks to us through all sorts of ways. He speaks to us through His Word. He speaks to us through signs and wonders. He speaks to us through other people. He speaks to us through just the Holy Spirit impressing things on our heart. He speaks to us through sometimes an audible voice. He speaks to us through these really special moments in our lives. And I want to share with you today 3 times in my life that the Lord spoke to me. And maybe as we walk through this together, the Lord will speak to you as well. I grew up in Pendleton, South Carolina, not too far from here. I grew up on a farm off of Highway 178. I don't know anything about farming, and my father tells me all the time, well, you were called to be a different kind of shepherd, and that's probably a good thing. So I grew up going to church, and I remember being in first grade. I was at my best friend's house, and he said to me, I could tell you where we were at, what car we were in, where we were at in Anderson. He says to me, hey, just so you know, I just became a Christian and I'm getting ready to get baptized. And since you're not a Christian, we can't be friends anymore. And I said, what in the world? This is not good. And I just remember crying and just begging him, what do you mean? We still be my friend. And the whole way home, his mom got in the car. She's like, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying? Like, I just went in the store for 5 minutes. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And the whole way home, I'm just begging him, please be my friend, still be my friend. And he said, okay, I'll make an exception for you. But when I got home, I went to my mom and dad and just said, hey, I want to become a Christian. What does that mean? And they got really excited. I'm like, oh, this is a really good thing, you know. And we had started going to a new church. And so I remember the pastor asked me, hey, my parents had prayed with me, and I prayed the sinner's prayer, and went to the pastor, and he asked me lots of, oh, you want to be baptized? He was asking me questions. I just assumed the answer was yes to all of the questions, and I got baptized, and just started kind of living my life. And I just remember nothing really changed. And over the next 6 years of my life, 6 or 7 years, I went through this pattern that maybe you're familiar with. You would kind of do your own thing. Then you would go to an event, and there would be an altar call, and you would feel this tug on your heart, and you would go and you'd get things right with the Lord. And it was like this roller coaster that I was on. And I would go forward, and I would be emotional, and I would pray, and I would fill out a card. And, youth event after youth event, this would keep happening until 1990. It was January of 1990. We were in Ridgecrest, North Carolina at Ridgecrest Conference Center, and a very significant weekend for many reasons, but Elvis's half-brother, whose name was Ricky Nelson, was speaking that weekend. And the final night, I know the routine. You're going to give an altar call. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to fill out your little card, and then I'm going to go about my business. That's how I operated back then. And I think we have a picture of the Ridgecrest Conference Center, or that's picture number 2. This would be like a big group shot. There we go. What you can't see in this picture is a little back room. And so they did the altar call. I went to the little back room. Sure enough, the counselor comes. Well, what are you here to do? Well, I'm here to rededicate my life for the 10,000th time. Filled out the card, they left, and I just remember sitting there by myself. I knew the routine, I knew what to say, I knew what to do. And I remember as I was sitting there, I just felt the Lord impress upon me. Hey, Heath, what are you doing? I said, oh, you know what, Lord? Get things right with you, rededicate my life. And I just felt the Spirit impress upon me, you don't have anything to rededicate. And I knew in that moment, like it wasn't, didn't have to think about it, didn't have to ponder it. I knew at that moment that I had not yet fully surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. And I didn't need a counselor. I didn't need to fill out a card. I just needed to confess my sins. I needed to surrender my life. And that's what I did. And from that time on, there have been many, many times that I have doubted whether I was worthy to be saved. There have been many times when I have questioned that. But I've never questioned whether God saved me. I've never questioned His love for me, that Jesus died for my sins, that He wanted to change my life. Ephesians 2:10 has become my life verse. It says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. A lot of the translations say masterpiece. We are God's masterpiece. And as I think back to that night at Ridgecrest, it was that realization that God had created me for something more. And I wasn't living into that purpose yet. And there may be some of you here today that the Lord is speaking to you like He spoke to me for salvation. It's that call to come and follow Him, that call to deny yourself, that call to carry your cross, that call to repent of your sins. And if that's you today, I pray that you would take care of that business at some point in the service. Talk to me, talk to one of your pastors. The second time I remember the Lord speaking to me was actually a year later. It was at a camp called Somersault, and it was at White Oak Conference Center. And we got to camp on Sunday night, and I didn't realize that my youth pastor had signed me up to be in a leaders class. And I had no idea what that meant. It was a smaller class. And that first day, that Monday, we took a spiritual gifts test, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm very good at tests, did very well on the SAT. And I took this test, and as we're going over the results, one of my gifts was evangelism. And I'm like, well, what does this mean? And the leader said, well, it may mean that you're called into ministry. I'm like, well, that's just crazy. I'm preparing for the National Basketball Association. I'm going to be a professional basketball player. And that's legitimately what my dream was. I had actually gone to the guidance counselor at school, and she said, what are you thinking about doing? I was like, well, my top three would be NBA player, own my own business, and then you just throw one in there for good measure. And I remember standing there on the dot matrix printer, and I hope it's somewhere. I hope I saved this, but it printed out everything you need to do to be a professional basketball player. It did not mention being good at basketball or above average height, but that was my dream. And so on that Monday, I just started asking questions like, Lord, what in the world? Lord, you can't be calling me to ministry. Like I feel like I'm a good Christian, but what in the world? Like your options back then were senior pastor, youth pastor, song leader, or foreign missionary. None of those sounded very appealing to me. But I spoke to my youth pastor that Monday night. And I said, what does this mean? I just don't think I'm good enough for this. I don't think, like God doesn't want me. He doesn't want to call me. I mean, we're good, but like He's got the wrong person. And then Tuesday morning, the camp speaker got up, and we would always do a time alone with God in the morning. And he said, okay, this morning we're reading Psalm 119, verses 1 through 10. That's for your time alone with God. And then we broke up and we went around the camp. And I was so excited when I started preparing for today. I actually found the picture of where I was. So it's the picture of the lake. And I'm excited to share this with my kids because I wanted to take them. This is in Winsboro, South Carolina. And I don't know who owns the camp now. The Baptist Association used to own it, but this is kind of where I was sitting in this grass. And I was cool. I had my sunglasses on. And I'm out there and I'm doing my time alone with God. What I'm about to share with you, you're going to say, Heath, I just don't believe that. That you don't have to believe it. I know it happened. But I opened up my Bible to Psalm 119. And I was preparing my heart. And I said, Lord, I just don't know about this. I'm really scared. I just don't think I'm cut out for this. And I opened up my Bible to Psalm 119, and it wasn't there. And I took my sunglasses off, and I'm looking, and all I see in my Bible are 3 verses from Psalm 118. Psalm 118, 5, 6, and 7. It said, when hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place. The Lord is with me. I will not be afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He is my helper. I look in triumph on my enemies. And back then, the NIV that I was using, it actually said, in my anguish, I cried to the Lord, and he answered by setting me free. And I just knew in my heart right then that the Lord was calling me to ministry. And I just prayed this very simple prayer. Okay, I don't think this is a good idea, but I'll do whatever you ask me to do. And you know, that first picture I showed you, it's in this big crowd, it's this big arena, and the Lord spoke to me in that place. And as you see here, I don't know if you guys know this, I love Table Rock Camp, and it was at this camp, as the Lord called me into ministry, I was like, boy, it'd be pretty cool to like serve at a camp and work at a camp. And the Lord speaks to us in all sorts of ways, in all sorts of places. The way that camp operated is they would have the altar call on Thursday night. And I was out of the aisle and at the counselor before the last song even started. And I remember I started, and he's like, what are you doing here? Like, give it a few minutes, buddy. And spoke to my youth pastor that night and just said, hey, I know the Lord's calling me to ministry. And I've never doubted I've never doubted that the Lord called me to ministry. I have doubted many times whether I was good enough or smart enough or had the ability or was good enough, holy enough to do what the Lord had called me to do. But I called my parents that Thursday night. And I remember talking to my mom. I said, hey, I just want you to know that I feel like the Lord's calling me to ministry. And she said, I know. I was like, what? What are you talking about? She said, when you guys left Sunday, I looked at your father and said, what are we going to do if he calls us and tells us he's been called into ministry? And my dad is a man of few words. He said, well, we will support him no matter what. And that was exactly what this 16-year-old Heath Mulliken needed to hear. And maybe there's some of you today, and maybe it's not ministry, but maybe it's just your purpose and your passion in life that the Lord is trying to speak to you. Maybe it's a career change. Maybe it's something that you've been struggling with. You're scared. And it's a scary thing when the creator of the universe starts, tugging at your arm and said, hey, let's go. But I pray that if that's you today, if you've been wrestling with a big decision or wrestling with your calling for life, do business with the Lord today. Listen to his voice. Heed his voice. And the final way, now the Lord has spoke to me a lot of times, but for time's sake, I only chose 3 of those times today that I thought were pertinent for our service. As many of you know, probably about 10 years ago, my wife started dealing with a disease called Huntington's disease. And it's a disease that's like having Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS at the same time. It's literally nicknamed the devil's disease because the person it's almost like they're possessed by a demon at times. And as we walk through that, I'm so grateful for so many of you prayed for our family during that time. And after my wife passed away, she passed away in January of 2019. There was a few months after that, I was just having one of those days. I was sitting on the couch minding my own business. And I think we've got a picture of the house there. This was the parsonage at Oakway United Wesleyan. I was just sitting on the couch watching TV, minding my own business, but I was thinking about the future. And Huntington's disease is a hereditary disease. So all three of my kids have a 50% chance of getting this disease. So it's like a coin flip almost. And as I sat there thinking about the future and thinking about, you've probably never done this. You're much holier than I am. You've never thought about the future and worried about the future and went through all the possibilities of everything that could go wrong. You have never done that, have you? Well, that's what I was doing that day. I was thinking of every awful possibility of, you know what, Heath? You're probably going to die alone. You're going to die a lonely old man. Your children are probably going to, and I'm just, every bad scenario you could think of, I was thinking of that day. And as I sat there on the couch, I think I even muted the television because I wanted the Lord to hear what I had to say. And I said, you know what, Lord? If just one more thing happens, if this happens or this happens, I am done with you. I am so done. Like, I'm not just done with ministry. I'm going to quit the ministry. I'm going to quit going to church. I'm just going to quit. I am so done with you. I cannot handle this. I cannot take this. I cannot take one more thing. And the Lord responded in love, no, you're not. And I said, no, I don't think, and I got a little bit louder because I wanted him to hear me. You know how it is. I don't think you heard me, Lord. This is not fair. Just one more thing. I'm done. I don't need this. I don't need you. I'll never go to church again. And I heard the Lord kind of impress on me, no, you're not. And a third time, I said, I don't think you hear me. Lord, what are you doing to me? If any, and I laid out all these scenarios, Lord, I will walk away. And he just said, no, you won't. And I just kind of bowed my head and I said, you're right. At this point in my life, it would take more faith to walk away than to persevere. And there's some of you here today, you are ready to give up. Maybe you're ready to give up on church. Maybe you're ready to give up on your marriage. Maybe you're ready to give up on your career or your calling. Maybe you're ready to give up on your faith altogether. And I just want to encourage you. It's okay to have those moments. Pretty much everybody you read about in the Old Testament had moments like that. They had moments where they yelled at God. They had moments where they questioned God. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is God always answers. And sometimes you may not like his answer. He answers in a booming voice. Sometimes he answers in the fire. Sometimes it is in a still small voice, the whisper. I've found a verse that has really been meaningful to me. A lot of people refer to Hebrews 11, the hall of faith, as it lists all of our heroes of the faith and how God used them and how God spoke to them. And for me, I go back to the chapter before, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 39. Now, I want you to think about this verse. But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those who have faith and are saved. We do not belong to those who shrink back. I got to share my first devotional with the graduating class as the interim chaplain last December, and that was the verse I used. Just to encourage them, hey, there's going to be times when you want to quit. There's going to be times when you want to shrink back. There's going to be times when you don't want to live into your purpose and your calling and who the Lord has created you to be. And I want you to be reminded, we do not belong to those who shrink back. We do not belong to those who are destroyed. We belong to those who have faith and are saved. And maybe you're here today and you are desperate to hear from the Lord. You are desperate for him, whether through your word or word of encouragement from a friend or from a message or from a song. You are desperate to hear from the Lord. You just need to be reminded that he's with you, that he never leaves you. He never will forsake you. We sang that song, Not for a Minute Was I Forsaken. Man, I have felt forsaken a lot, but it's never been true. And so I'm going to invite the singers back up as we close in the song. But I just want to encourage you today. One of the prayers that the Lord always answers is a simple prayer, Lord, help me. And wherever you're at today in your life, if you pray that prayer, if you are needing a word from the Lord, if you are needing encouragement from the Lord, if you are needing, man, I love this old time word we used to use in the church, unction. Everybody who's heard that word, the unction? You need the unction. You need that steel in your backbone. You need some guts. You need some bravery. You need some courage. No matter where you're at today, the Lord, just as desperate as you are to hear from Him, He is desperate to speak to you. He's desperate to remind you that you are His child. You are His masterpiece. When God brags to everybody, He brags on us. He's like, look what this is it. Of everything I've created, this is the greatest thing I've done. Us. And so I want to remind you of that today. And before you leave, if you need someone to pray with you, if you need someone to encourage you, I know Pastor Mike, myself, Pastor Lee, any of the staff, we would love to pray with you. We would love to encourage you because God is on the move. He is doing things at Southern Wesleyan. He's doing things in our district, and I know He's doing things at this church. So, Father, I just thank you so much for your goodness and grace to us. Thank you for the opportunity just to worship you today, to be reminded that you are with us. I pray that you would walk with us through the ups and downs of life, that we would never be far from your presence,